let me ask you about modern technology and how it may have impacted our desire to explore. Because right now, I can just go on Google Earth and also Google Street View. You can see a lot of stuff without having to leave the couch. And then there's GPS. I mean, one of the things that I kind of quote unquote enjoyed, and of course you and I think are a bit retarded and strange in this way, but we kind of enjoy getting lost. And nowadays it's almost impossible to get lost because you always know the GPS will tell you where you are. And nowadays I also read about sailors and sailors, again, GPS is huge. And before they depended on all sorts of tools to kind of figure out where they are and looked at charts and all that kind of stuff. So what do you think? Has modern technology deadened or had some sort of major impact on our ability to kind of explore?
I think it's having an impact, and the impact is growing with with every passing day and every passing minute. And that's something that I actually, by the time I finished writing the book, I was more concerned about than I had been, to the extent that I'm making conscious efforts to look. I don't mind getting lost. I don't want to get lost every time I head out of the door. So I use GPS mapping, but I try to use it in a way like I'll look up how to get to a place. I'll put it on my check it on my phone, and then I'll put my phone down and I'll try and drive there without instead of because if you there's different ways of finding your way in the world. One of which is sort of uh, first person egocentric. You're following landmarks. You're saying I need to go to 3 blocks that way, and then I turn right at the gas station. As opposed to you may not. So if you're following turn by turn directions on a GPS, you're not actually building a map in your head of where you're going. You may not know what the how all these places are connected, and you wouldn't be able to find your own way back. So anyway, so I try not to follow use turn by turn directions except when I need them. And a couple of weeks ago, I was taking my kids to a birthday party, and I missed a turn that I should have taken because I wasn't following the turn by turn. And of course, my kids are in the backseat chirping, saying, "Mommy uses Waze. If you were using Waze, you wouldn't have gotten, we wouldn't have missed that turn." I'm like, you know what? Like, we're gonna be there in plenty of time. We're gonna be 35 seconds later than we would have been because I went 2 blocks. Like, relax. The consequences of this were minor, and the benefits is that I'm looking around, and now we've never been down this street before. Look, we're going down a new street. Like, hey, celebrate that we got a chance to wander. But I'm speaking of wandering. I'm wandering off the topic of your question, which
Don't
is
worry, the name of the podcast show is Wander Learn.
there we go. So I'm right at home here. But yeah, the GPS is one aspect of it. But I think your question also gets to something that I've really wrestled with a lot, which is like, yeah, what is the difference between climbing Mount Everest? What is the difference between like Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay climbing Mount Everest versus I pay $100,000 and someone guides me up Everest, tells me exactly what to do at every given point, or sitting at home and watching an amazing documentary about climbing Everest, which may actually give me, better scenery and like if my goal is just to find out about the world, which is one way of framing the desire to explore, actually sitting on the couch and watching National Geographic is probably better in some ways, but it's different. And to me, intuitively, it doesn't feel better because there's something about actively exploring. And I think and there's neuroscience research, which I get into a little in the book, saying showing that there is a difference between when you're following your own interests, instincts, and making decisions. You integrate information differently than when it's just kind of fed to you, and that leads us to this whole rabbit hole of social media and algorithms. Just that I think tap into this circuitry that what makes us want to explore. That we may feel like we're exploring if we're scrolling social media, but we're not getting the same benefits as we do when we go out into the world, interact, take risks, make decisions, and have to pay attention.
Alex, you've got two children, right?
That's right.
So what would you tell them? Would you say that exploration is essential for them having a deeply meaningful life?
I would. I would. I don't think I have to use the word exploration because there's different ways of framing this conversation. I think this is a conversation that's going on in different languages and different uh, sort of contexts, throughout society right now, which is, are you going to be a protagonist in your life? Are you going to make decisions, be active, be able to have the feeling that you're acting on the world and the world is acting on you, or are you going to be a spectator? And I think exploring is a big part of this idea of getting out into the world and interacting with it and learning in ways that you wouldn't be able to predict, discovering things that you didn't know you wanted to discover. And at the opposite end of the spectrum of that is being basically a vegetable with an iPad plugged into your head that's just feeding you whatever stuff it knows will titillate you. It doesn't matter if it has any use or if it's of interest to you. It's just it gives you the illusion. So anyway, I'm getting on my soapbox here, but I think exploration in this broader sense, nobody has to go to this. You don't have to parasail to the South Pole, but you have to give yourself a chance to follow your interests, to listen to what's interesting to you, and wherever, whether that's in the physical or the intellectual realm, and pursue those things and do things. Don't just watch them.
Right.